Back again?
We are back again, yes. And this topic, Raj, is a bit of a different one, isn't it? It's a bit of a heavy topic today.
I think it's heavy, but it's important.
It's a necessary one, yeah. You know, one thing we want to say today is if anybody has faced a miscarriage or anything traumatic like this, then keep yourself safe today. There may be things that we talk about that may feel quite personal. So, yeah, just keep yourself safe today.
Okay.
I think.
So before we started, I thought I'd read some facts about miscarriage, especially like the inequalities in South Asian communities, because that has a huge impact on us and the experiences we have pre and then even postnatally. Yeah. Okay. So South Asian women in England face higher pregnancy-related risks, including miscarriage-linked complications, compared with white women. Stillbirth and preterm birth rates are significantly higher among Pakistani and Indian mothers, increasing overall miscarriage vulnerability. I didn't know that.
No, I didn't know that.
Pakistani mums have the highest neonatal death rate in England, reflecting deeper pregnancy-related health inequalities. Barriers such as language, cultural mismatch, and lower trust in maternity services can delay care when miscarriage symptoms appear. So higher rates of conditions like gestational diabetes and vitamin D deficiency in South Asian women contribute to increased miscarriage risk.
A lot there, isn't there?
There's a lot there. And I didn't realise about in terms of, especially about Pakistani women.
No, I didn't. I didn't. So one of the reasons, we wanted to do this is because I felt quite strongly about this one in particular. And I wanted to share an experience of mine and how miscarriage just how miscarriage affected me. But I think this could well be common amongst many Asian women.
Especially given the stats.
So I suffered a miscarriage in between my two children very early on. I was only 6 weeks pregnant, but it was a time of joy because it was after some surgery that I had, abdominal. And the doctor sort of said, we don't know if you can carry again. If you do, we'll have to deal with you when the time comes because we don't know if it's going to be a straightforward pregnancy. So it really was a miracle that I was pregnant in the first place after this really tough time. But unfortunately, at 6 weeks, I lost the baby. And even before I come on to what happened, it's so brutal, miscarriages.
How long ago was this?
This was maybe 11 years ago, coming up to. And it's brutal in the sense, it's literally like 1 minute you're pregnant, next minute you're not. It can feel as brutal as that. And I remember doing loads of pregnancy tests once I started bleeding. And they kept coming positive, but obviously they are going to because your hormone levels then drop off. Without giving too much information, I literally went to the loo and it all kind of expelled out. And then I did a pregnancy test and it was negative. It was as brutal as that for me. So it's a real empty feeling. And, obviously I told my family that this is what happened. And, today we're specifically also going to talk about in-laws or family members and how you're treated with miscarriages. And in my case, somebody from my in-laws rang me, female, from my in-laws side of the family, and just said, I've heard this is what's happened. It was as brutal and awful as that. And I said, well yeah, I lost the baby. And they said, miscarriages don't run in our family. I've heard people in your family have had miscarriages, so it must be from your side. I was absolutely stumped at the inhumane way that was said to me.
Just the delivery.
The delivery was vile. And I was sat in the living room with my daughter and my husband, and this person was on the phone saying this to me. And I think the shock of losing the baby almost was a shock absorber for what this person said, because I was already really upset that this was just it bounced off me almost. It wasn't until years later I thought back and thought, that was vile to say that.
It didn't register in the moment.
It must have done, because I remember saying to this person, well, actually miscarriages can happen for lots of reasons. And it could be, it could be my husband's sperm. It doesn't necessarily have to be my egg. That's the issue. I think I even said that. And this person just went, oh, well, there's always next time.
That's really cold.
It was vile. It was just it's not like you forget about what you've lost and then you just replace it. It's not like a glass that you break and then you buy another one and you replace it. And I think maybe unconsciously, because I felt it was a fitting answer anyway, it registered, but consciously there was an element of not really registering in that moment. And subsequently, when I got pregnant with my daughter, I didn't tell anyone until I literally gave birth. I wasn't very big either. You couldn't tell. I didn't tell my work until I was 6 months, and then I left after a few weeks. And we just didn't tell anybody until she sort of arrived. But then when I reflected back on what was said, I almost, other than vile and inhumane, I can't think of any other words to say to somebody who's just lost a human life. And at that time, everybody around me was getting pregnant because it was, when all your friends are having babies. And I just felt like such a failure in that moment, that I had one responsibility, is just to keep this child safe, and I couldn't do it. And it was awful, because like my best friend was pregnant, and everybody else was just having 2-3 babies. It looked so easy. And and I think the other thing is the shock of it, because my first pregnancy was so easy, and you're not expecting it. And then you're like, oh, I'm somebody that's had a miscarriage. And even that was weird to get my head around. And nobody around me had one. Like, none of my friends had one.
So you didn't know anybody who went through the experience?
Nobody. I was on my own. I don't even think I spoke to my husband very much. I almost wanted to jump over it and carry on. That's the avoidant in me, though. Trying not to feel the pain of what was going on. It was the most loneliest time, I think, of my life. And I'm a talker. I can't hold my own water most days. But that was really awful. Just felt like there was no outlet to really say how I felt. And it was, we all have trauma in life that happens, and I've had a few, but that one, I took more time off work. And I remember saying to my friend that this feels like it's taken like a piece of me that I can never replace. Other trauma I can work around. It was really, really, it was just the worst time of my life. And it was about 4 or 5 months before I got pregnant with my daughter, but they felt like eternity.
So 4 or 5 months after you miscarried?
Yeah, I got pregnant with my daughter, but those 4 or 5 months absolutely felt like they felt like years. Didn't feel like just a few months. And doctors were great at the time, but one thing I vividly remember them saying is try not to get pregnant straight away, because the body needs time to.
How many months?
I was advised to, at minimum, at least wait 1 cycle. Let your body do its clear out, let the hormones stabilize, because it will give you a better pregnancy and outcome. And I followed that, but obviously it was 4 or 5 months for me.
What was the support like from your GP, or, like health? What was their support like?
I had 2 very opposing experiences. If we go GP-wise, I can't fault the GP support. It was exceptional from day one.
Is this the GP, like you've been with this GP a while?
Yeah, so 15 odd years. Yeah. A scan was booked in straight away. And very honest, more than likely you are having a miscarriage. And I know that wasn't what I wanted to hear at the time, but it was what I needed at the time. And subsequently I had a couple of follow-ups in between, because I was bleeding more and more until I had my scan. So I can't fault that one little bit. But then in between, when I was bleeding a lot, I ended up in A&E. And I went into A&E, and I was really upset and distressed, obviously. And this doctor walked in, didn't even introduce himself, by the way. And he just said, right, what's going on? I said, well, my GP said I'm miscarriaging and I'm bleeding even more. And he said, I should go to the hospital just in case. And he said, okay, I need you to do a pregnancy test. I said, oh, okay. So I did a pregnancy test, and off he toodled off and came back. And he said, oh, your pregnancy test is negative. So I took that as, I've miscarried this baby now. And I said, oh, I guess I've miscarried the baby. And he said, oh no. He said, sometimes, we really want to be pregnant and we tell ourselves we're pregnant, but we're not. And I just
said that to you?
Yes, he did. And I sat back and I went,
what hospital was it?
General in Leicester, A&E. And I said to him, no, I was pregnant, sorry. And I even went to the doctor, and I'm on the pregnancy register, and told him the whole history. I've even got a scan next week. And he just went, I just wait for the scan, but I more than likely you were never pregnant. They call it a phantom pregnancy. And I walked out absolutely in a daze.
You sort of had, you went to the toilet and you
I was bleeding more.
Yeah. So you felt like you flushed.
I felt like something's happening. I didn't flush it out till when I got home, but so my brother took me in, because obviously my husband was at home with the daughter. And I said, oh, he said I'm not pregnant. And he just went. We were just bemused. It was the weirdest time in that hospital. And I went home and I did another test, and it was positive. And I was just confused. Anyway, eventually I did miscarry. And I must admit, I did actually write into the hospital and put in a complaint about this and everything that had happened.
Oh, that's good. That doctor just...
It was vile. It was really vile to do
horrible, that. Horrible, way to...
At a time when you're already distressed and don't know what's going on.
That's just crazy. He spoke to you like that. Just like the lack of compassion.
Yeah, he really didn't give a shit. Not even, are you okay? Or... And then, just go to the appointment and have your scan kind of thing. What are you doing here? You got an appointment in 3 days. I did go back to my GP and said, this is what happened. And he just sort of said, you've got to be so careful when you say things like that, because, yes, body can do phantom pregnancies, but that wasn't the case for you. And actually, he's the one that gave me the complaint numbers and people to write to. So that was another layer on top of this loss, where now I've got somebody who doesn't even believe I'm even having a miscarriage, and I never was pregnant.
Just talking about that, some doctors and the way they speak to you, it really blows my mind.
Yeah. You wonder why they do the job.
You really do.
So what did you get into the job for? The title, the white coat, the stethoscope, the money?
I remember, this is totally different, but I remember I went to the doctors when I was at uni.
Mm-hmm.
I had really bad acne. I had this horrible sort of acne outbreak. So I went to the doctors. This is back when I used to go to the doctors. And the doctor said to me, "This is Monday morning. I'm not dealing with your spots on a Monday morning."
Wow.
And I was 18, 19 years old. And I just took that from her. But back, like, if somebody spoke to me like that now, it'd be completely different.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I just thought, what a horrible thing to say. Why are you a doctor? Like, my face was covered in spots. I'm young. That wouldn't matter to me now.
Absolutely. Never mind.
And I just thought, why are you a doctor?
Yeah, that's exactly the same. I mean, the hospital sent me an apology, but it was a bit late for that, you know. But I think in my despair of what I'd been through, that was, I didn't want to pursue it any further. I'd made my complaint. I'd made how I feel known. But outside of that, I think the toxicity I felt in-house, and this was from in-laws, you know, and the lack of empathy and just the unbelievable, well, there's always next time, like something you just chuck in the bin and start again. I felt it was really something that I wanted to highlight on this platform as well, because if it's happened to me, then it's happened to others. And I really wanted to give out the message that it is not just the woman's fault. It's a plethora of things that can be going on. And talking about doctors, there's one doctor said to me when I did ring up to say I've had the miscarriage, and the scanners said there's nothing there. And he said to me, you know, just think of it as nature's way of not giving you a sick child. There was something fundamentally wrong. And that's just your body's way of not putting you through something. And that was the only thing I had left to hang on to. And I kind of took that okay, somewhere the universe is giving me a message that we don't want to give you a sick child for life. And I just hung on to that. That's the only nice thing anyone said to me, and I kind of took it and ran with it. And you know, my family were brilliant, but as for my in-laws, it was really awful. Actually, their treatment was really, really awful. And do you know what the weirdest thing is, Raj? I never told my husband that this was said to me.
Oh, that was my next question to you.
Never told him. I only told him a few years ago. I think I just stopped talking in that period.
That just shows that you were just so taken aback and probably dumbfounded, and you just didn't know how to process that, so you just locked it away somewhere. Yeah,
just bounced off me and went somewhere and got locked away, until recently we started talking about a lot of toxicity from my in-laws, and it's something I mentioned to my husband, and like you said, he was dumbstruck. He just kind of went, was that really said to you? And I think I remember saying, have I not told you? He was like, no.
Oh, you didn't.
I don't think I was like, did I not tell you? It was like, did I not tell you? And he was like, no. And I said, no. And he said, I won't repeat what he said because it was quite strong. And I just thought, yeah, it is exactly that. It is exactly as vile as you just said, in you know, with a few F's and B's in there towards this person. But that toxicity will stay with me for life, and those words will stay with me for life, that it doesn't run in my family, it must run in yours. I mean, what the fuck is that about? Yeah. Who even says that? And this is woman to another woman. This is women doing this to women. Utterly shocking.
It's just such a horrible, it's like a wounding thing to say to somebody.
Yeah, it is. It will stay with me for life, those words, you know. And it, in words, you know, words are hurtful, but it's how you say them as well. You know, there's no emotion, no empathy, it's like venom. It doesn't come from me, it comes from you. You're the defected one here.
But do you think that spoke to like a deeper issue with your relationship with this person?
Absolutely. Yeah, this person absolutely hated me. There's not a shadow of it. And I don't use hate lightly. You know, it was pure hate and venom. There was always hate and venom there. But this was a really great time for this person to stick the knife in. When you're already down, let's just...
They're waiting for their opportunity.
Very, very opportunistic person, that anytime something wasn't going right for me, then the knives would come out. And it'd always be in the back, never in the front. You know, it'd always been when my husband couldn't hear it or wasn't there. This person knew it was just me and them, one-to-one on the phone. Can say anything and then deny it. So, yeah, you know, to all those women out there that have ever faced anything like that, you know, please don't feel it's normal. Please, you know, I would urge you not to do what I did, which is keep it to yourself, never tell anyone. I don't think I uttered it to anyone for years. Even after I'd had my second daughter and time went on, I just didn't tell anybody. Maybe part of that is the shame of that somebody actually said that to you, and actually making me feel like I am the one that's at fault. Maybe there is a bit of shame I took on that really wasn't mine, because the person that said it should feel shame. So yeah, please, don't. I wouldn't advocate keeping it to yourself. Speak up, get help. Speak to your partners if you can. Speak to a friend, anybody. We will also link in some places you can go for help. Yeah, but I wouldn't advocate not speaking to anybody. And that's one of the messages I really wanted to give out today, that along with this, there's many things that I kept to myself for many years. And I think the people that abuse people like this and throw their shit around, they bank on you not telling anyone. That's their thing.
That person hit you while you were vulnerable.
Yeah, it speaks volumes on who they are. More than who I am. And that's not the first time. There were lots of times I was hit when I was vulnerable and called names and called lots of horrific things over the years. But to keep peace, to not fuel the fire, what's the best way to kill a cancer is to starve it. So I thought, if I just stay quiet and don't rise to it and just let it bounce off me, it will go away. And it doesn't go away. It really, really doesn't. And there are so many things I never told my husband over the years, which I probably didn't until this person passed away and died. Then I started to speak up. And my husband couldn't believe the level of trauma that was inflicted by this one person. And of course, when you've got a narcissist in the family, they have flying monkeys as well. They have their little enablers and helpers who also stick in the knife at the same time. And I would just urge people not to, don't stay quiet, I would say.
And there's a lot more support now, I would guess, than there was back then.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I think where the healthcare professionals need to change things is to give you that information as well. That's one thing I wasn't given anywhere.
Oh, you weren't?
Not when I went for the scan, they did stick a few leaflets in my hand, but of course I didn't read them. I was so heartbroken with what was going on, and that's another thing. When I went for the scan,
they didn't offer you counselling.
No.
Oh, okay.
Nothing. Just a few leaflets, which I think I gave to my husband and just went home. Didn't read them. But the other thing is when I went for the scan as well. You were talking about how things are delivered to you.
Yeah.
Went for the scan and he just said, "There's nothing there." I know. And what do you say? You just go, "Oh, okay."
Sometimes you do wonder why people do the jobs.
I mean, it was amazing. And the weird thing is that the two times I had the most awful experiences with the two men. Having said that, GP in the surgery was a male and was a polar opposite. So I'm not going to say it's all men.
To be honest, I think he gave you, like, his words were softer and probably helped you a little bit.
Yeah. It's all I had.
Yeah.
It's all I had because I didn't have anyone to speak to. I don't think my husband had the words for me. Plus, he doesn't, all due respect to men out there, you carry the baby, you lose it, you're going through it. It's very hard to articulate that to someone. All I had was, it's nature's way of not giving you a sick child, and something was fundamentally wrong. It's still etched in my mind what he said, and I just took that and ran with
quite
it.
Like a bit of a scientific
explanation,
isn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't from the heart, but
I think it's how you deliver it, and he delivered it with compassion, some softness, some just empathy, and just the, do you need anything else? There weren't many people that said, do you need anything else, other than like my own family. So that was another. I guess what I'm trying to put across here is that my miscarriage miscarriages aren't a horrific experience as they are, but when you have people who add on to that trauma with their shitty behaviour, whether it's a healthcare professional, whether it's an in-law, whether it's a friend, it just makes that journey 10 times harder. If we lose a family member or a parent, we mourn for what we do in our culture for 14 days, and we do rituals to say goodbye to that person. Did you do any of that as part of? Yeah, what I did do in the end, once I did get over the stress and the trauma of it, is I planted a tree in my garden. I bought an oak tree, and oak symbolises strength, and I wanted to have an oak tree. And I know you can't keep them forever because they've got to go into forest at some stage. But I planted an oak tree, and I just enjoyed watching that oak tree grow. And every year it would grow some more, and I would think, oh, my baby would have been 2 or 3 or 4. So that's something I did do for myself. But there is nothing. It is a death and it is a loss, but we don't really have anything in place to help you get through that loss. Like, we don't do a ritual, or we don't mark it, or all of that. And I think because nobody also talks about it, it doesn't occur to you till much later that, maybe I could do something to say goodbye, or so maybe that's something we need to change for women as well, that we advocate something, even if it's letting go of some balloons, or lighting a candle, or saying a prayer, or I don't know, anything. But I know that helped me. Is there special leave you can take?
It's just compassionate leave.
Just compassionate leave. It comes under compassionate leave.
I got, did I get, I think I had some compassionate leave, and then again, the doctor wrote me off for about a month. And I just took.
But it's good you're allowed to take compassionate leave.
You are. I mean, I couldn't fault my work back then. They were brilliant. You know, that was one source of support as well. They were really, really good. My manager, my colleagues, they were all fine. But it's when the support is not there at home, and I don't just mean your partner, because your partner's going through the loss as well. You need that external support as well.
And did you have that from your own family?
Yeah, my mum was brilliant. You know, my dad was great. My brother they're brilliant, absolutely brilliant. But when it came to my in-laws, and I think this is a topic we'll touch on another time as well, the toxicity made it really, really, really difficult to not. It made me take some of that blame on. It made me feel like there was a default in me. It made me feel like I can't do this. Like everybody can carry babies. I'm the only one that can't. I felt like I let my family down because I could not bring this child into this world. And unfortunately, they left that little seed there. And I would really urge anybody watching this that may be a mother-in-law, father-in-law, sister-in-law, boy-in-law, mussy-in-law, just, you know, be kind to girls that come into your family and who try to just come in to build a family and make a family. They are somebody's daughter. They are somebody's sister. Just like you love your daughters and granddaughters, you know, we are also loved. We leave our families to come into your world. Please don't treat women like this, especially as women. You know, we should have some sisterhood and we should back each other up, especially at times like this, because I think a warm hug, some kind words, a cooked meal, anything that would have felt like a blessing in that moment. Then you're a defected human being and you can't do this. So just be mindful. I know it's horrible, isn't it? It really is. It's vile. There's no word for it. There's no way to flower it up. And, you know, when you go through a miscarriage as well, it's such a personal loss for the mum that I don't know if anybody on the outside can feel it unless you've been through a miscarriage yourself. And that's no disrespect. If you haven't, you can't feel it. Yeah. And I just
that's
think,
just a fact, really. If you haven't, then
I just think it needs to be dealt with way more delicately than I think people sometimes do. And, you know, if you have had friends, family, in-laws that have been really kind to you, then what a blessing. What a beautiful blessing to have. Maybe in another life. Yeah, and the person that said this to me would have been a little bit older than me at that time.
And if you think, like, if a young girl came into your family, you just, you know, because at this age, we know better.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
yeah. The skin is a bit thicker.
Yeah. So you have to make allowances for people who don't.
Yep. And I understand more now today. That was what that person said. It shows volumes about them.
Yeah.
It really wasn't about me.
That's not about you.
It's about them. But, you know, you've touched on other people's daughters coming into your family. And the one thing I credit my family for, when I mean my family, I mean in this country and in India, you know, we've got a whole village in India. Where I come from, whether you are a son-in-law or a daughter-in-law, you are part of the fold.
Oh.
Everybody gets treated the same.
Yeah.
You get told off the same. You get loved the same.
Yeah.
There's no my daughter, your daughter. When you sit down, all the girls sit down to eat.
Yeah.
If the men, they all sit. So I come from a really inclusive family where, honestly, if you saw my family, you really couldn't pick out who's who.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
The daughter-in-laws aren't on the side eating last.
Serving everybody and then eating last. No, they eat with all the girls of the family. And in fact, in my family, the women eat first.
Yeah.
And then men eat later. And the men will serve the women. You know, we're quite progressive. So when I come from that to this, that in itself was a massive shock because it's not where I come from.
I saw this Instagram reel and it was like in a brown household. And it was just talking about the blatant, like, sexism. And this woman was just sharing a post. She goes, like, this is my family gathering. And all the men were sitting on the sofa and the women were sitting on the floor.
Yeah.
And she's like, check this out. And I just thought, gosh, yeah, but that's how it is.
Yeah, and we never questioned it then.
That's how it is.
Yeah, but today it's very different.
But you just accept that.
That's how it was.
Yeah, you just find a seat. And
it's usually on the floor because all the men are on the chairs. Yeah, absolutely. But it doesn't need to be that way. I think so much of our cultures have moved on. You know, this little sticky point, I still hear it today. You know, my experience was only like 10 years ago, not 20, 30 years ago. So it's still very, I'm sure if this person was alive today, I would still get the same amount of shit, if not more. You know, that was never going to stop. That's the other thing. I thought staying quiet, seeing past it, being the bigger person, I thought it would fade. And actually all that did is fuel the fire. You know, more and more and more got added in the hope that I would just get really pissed off and walk away. So that doesn't work either. So just, you know, I think I've said it quite a few times now, just don't suffer in silence in any shape or form. Reach out and get help. And I think for me, eventually when I became a therapist myself and had to go through intense therapy myself, I think I realised that the trauma ran so deep and just how wrong it was. That was the awakening.
That's a form of bullying. There's no
It is
two ways about
absolutely
it. That's a form of bullying, yeah.
Yes. And, that extended into you're a bad mother for working. You should not leave your children with a childminder or nursery because they will not know who you are and you will not have a bond with your child, and you should sit at home with your children, and you should just let your husband earn, and why have you got a career? I had it all of that. So it didn't just end with like a miscarriage, it was continuous. Then it's the next thing, and then the next thing, and then the next thing, and you realize that actually that you're never going to be good enough for this person. That's what it boils down to. But again, that's a reflection on them feeling what is good enough. I am good enough.
Absolutely.
But that takes a lot of work.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of internal work to do because, as much as we are women of today and we think we are real hard nuts, it dents you.
Yeah, of course.
It chips you and it dents you. And then you have to
informs you. It changes you because you've been through that experience.
It does. So, yeah, that's my story that I just wanted to share today.
Well, thanks for sharing. I think that's a really powerful story, and I think that will resonate with so many others.
I hope so. And if there's one thing you take away, is silence is not always the best way forward. That doesn't mean we're advocating you go out and you fight the world, but to take the support, and if it's not in the family, then outside of the family as well.
Definitely.
Good stuff.
Well, thanks for sharing, Prit.
Yeah, difficult one, heavy one. So yeah, whoever's watching, keep yourself safe if you've been through anything like this. If you have got any questions or you want any kind of support, if you've been through this or are going through this, then please you can DM us or you can email me and Raj on rajandprit1990@gmail.com if you want any kind of support from a therapist, counselling perspective, can help with that as well. Or if you just want to reach out and tell your story and share the burden, then that's fine too. We'll see you again soon.
Yep.
So it's a goodbye from me.
It's a goodbye from us.
Until next time, what will people say?